A good Erev Shabbos, everyone. Erev Shabbos, Parshas Truma, time of preparation for the preparation of Purim. I want to share an idea which I think is critical and is even connected to this week's Parsha. Gemara wonders, what did the Jews do to deserve the possibility of being wiped out and completely obliterated from the world? They had to have done something really terrible in order to be able to be chayiv kliya, to be chayiv the destruction of Haman, Larug, Lahashbir, Lahabed, that Haman wanted to completely destroy and obliterate the Jewish people. So what did they do wrong? So the Gemara says because they were nano from the Suda of Russia, that they had, they derived benefit and pleasure from the Suda of that wicked person. They didn't really derive benefit from it because it was actually, everything was kosher. There was nothing wrong with it. They weren't eating treif. They weren't drinking stam yenom or yain nesach. They weren't drinking things that they shouldn't be drinking. Hashdiyot hadas ve'enones. That everything was according to the rules. There was nobody was making any mistakes, and everything was 100% kosher v'yasher. So if that's the case, what's the problem? Why couldn't they be there? Because we have to understand what the whole party was about. The whole party was really about the fact that God divorced the Jewish people. They knew that there was a prophecy that after 70 years, God was going to bring the Jews back and rebuild the temple. But the 70 years, according to their calculation, had already passed. This was not the first time they made such a calculation. But now Achashverosh, who made the calculation, said that, look, 70 years have passed, according to his calculation, from when the thing was counting began. And he says God hasn't come to redeem the Jewish people. That means God has forsaken the Jews. And at the party, he brought out all the kelim of the Beis Hamikdash, and that's why we switch into the tune of Eicha in the middle of the Megillah. We say V'hakelim mikelim shonim, that these were temple vessels that he brought out, and he came out actually in the clothes of the Kohen Gadol, the clothes of the high priest. It wasn't a facsimile, a Purim costume of the clothes. It was the real clothes of the Kohen Gadol, right? The mamish, the garments that were taken from the Beis Hamikdash, that were plundered from the Beis Hamikdash. And the problem is that the Jews didn't belong at a party like that. Vinenu, because they derived benefit, they were okay with it. You understand what that means? That means that they saw the vessels that they heard about, the vessels of the temple. They saw mamish, the kelim of the Beis Hamikdash. They saw the clothes of the Kohen Gadol, and they didn't say a word. Not only didn't say the word, there was actually chalukei deos. There was a difference of opinion of what they should do. Mordechai felt that they had to make a machal, they had to make a public protest. And when Haman walked into the room, he didn't bow down. But the rest of the Jews felt that Mordechai was putting them in danger. He was like a rodef. He was like a pursuer, and that he was causing them to be put into harm's way. And that who told him that he could that he shouldn't be korei mishtach, that he shouldn't bow down in front of Haman? Yes, we're the Haman hates us, but why do we have to fuel the hatred? Let's hide a little bit, bury our head in the sand, and give in to him and to his demands. It was a crazy time. But I always give the mashal. Then imagine, you go to a fashion show, and there you see somebody coming down the runway, and the announcer says that she's modeling a vest that's made of ancient leather that was taken from holy scrolls that were plundered from the Nazis. And as she walks by, you look at it and you see Breishis Bara Lukim Shmai B'Saris, that it's actually a Sefer Torah that was formed into a vest. And you go bananas. One would hope that you would go bananas. One would hope that you would say something. One would hope you would walk out. One would hope you would be devastated. That you would feel something. Well, here every Jew was there. Every Jew was there, watching this debacle happen and watching him come out. This drunken guy in the middle of an orgy is drinking from the vessels of the temple and wearing the clothes of the Kohen Gadol, of the high priest. That was disgusting, and it's like it's a terrible thing. It's like when we see the swastika, or we see artifacts from the Shoah, we can't even look at them. Like, it brings up so much. It's so painful to us. How is it possible that we sat there? But the reason is because we were cold. We were shut off, shut down. There was no fire. There was no passion. We were shtia kedas einones. We were the frumest of the frum. We mamish kept everything chumras and all kinds of chumras. We made ourselves crazy with all the chumras, all the strictnesses, everything. We were totally religious people. However, we were religious shells. There was no fire burning inside. There was no passion. So what was the remedy for the passion? Esther got it correctly. Because Esther, what motivated Esther to go speak to Achashverosh? When Mordechai said to her, look, who knows if this is not the whole reason why you became queen? In other words, that if you don't do this, you and your father's house are going to be lost. That means that everything that you think is important to you is going to be gone. And it was at that moment that she realized, Taka, I do think that this is important. And she felt that she was going to lose something. So she knew that she better go and speak to the king, because she was motivated now. Her fire was turned back on. And the reason that her fire got turned back on is because she realized she was about to lose it. And when you realize you're about to lose something, so then that helps you become passionate about it. It helps you to redevelop a relationship to it. And that's exactly what she turned to Mordechai and said, Lech knos kol Yehudim. We usually translate that as go gather together all the Jews, and that was an achdus, and that's what Purim is all about. Achdus, very nice, different tack. I'm going to a different place. Lech knos kol Yehudim. Let every Jew knos, let him bring himself into himself. Let every Jew look inside of himself and saying, is this important to me? Because the minute that he asks himself the question, is this important to me? And he answers why it's important to him, he's going to be filled with a passion. And when he's filled with a passion, then he is going to be able to protect this and defend this, and then he is going to be able to reawaken himself. Then nobody is going to be able to take this away from him. And that's the way it worked. What was amazing is that the greatest gift that ever happened to us is that Achashverosh could not undo the Achashverosh could not undo the decree, and that all that he could do is to say that, look, there's gonna be a war on the 13th of Adar. They're coming for you, but I'm going to let you defend yourselves. And that was the greatest gift that he gave us, because to defend ourselves meant that we had to know that this was important, because otherwise we would have no strength. Otherwise we would have no power to be able to beat our enemy. Only when we know that what we're doing is important and valuable do we have that ability to be able to muster that kind of strength. And that's the kind of strength that we mustered. It was not physical strength, because we were fasting on that day. That's why we fast on the fast of Esther. On the day that we fought that war on the 13th of Adar, we were fasting, because we realized that it is all about defending what is important to us. How fortunate is this nation that is like this, that has this kind of Torah, has this kind of God, and we recognize that. And as soon as we recognize that, we actually reaffirmed our commitment to Judaism. Kimu v'kiblu, it says in the Megillah, that we got up and we re-accepted that which we had accepted once. That means that on Mount Sinai we accepted the Torah once out of fear. Now we accept the Torah out of love, because we realized how important it was, how valuable it was to our lives. The fire was burning. And that's what Purim is all about. Purim is all about finding that fire inside of us. We all have a fire inside, but it's covered by so much garbage. That's why we wear masks on Purim, because we wear masks in order to be able to take off the mask. Because when you take off the mask, you realize that the reality is behind the mask. That we live a veneer, we live our lives in a certain way. We give off a certain vibe, but that's not really us. We are much deeper than that inside, and we have to pull off our masks and find our fire. We do things very often. We live without passion, without fire. We live with rote. We keep Shabbos the way we keep Shabbos. We keep Pesach the way we keep Pesach. We do our mitzvahs the way we do our mitzvahs. But there isn't always a fire, a passion burning inside. And Purim is the reminder that if you want to have a successful Jewish nation, if you want to be able to have a geula, to have a redemption, there needs to be passion. They need to be connected to what we do. It can't just be about what we do, it's about how we do it. It has to be about the fire that's burning inside. V'yasuli mikdash, you have to make for me a mikdash. In this week's parasha, you have to make a sanctuary, but you can't just leave it as a sanctuary. V'shachanti b'socham, so that I can come inside of you and I can ignite that fire, that there could be a godliness inside of us. That's what we have to put back inside of our Judaism. Bilvavi mishkan evne, that I have to build a mishkan. V'yasuli mikdash, as it says in the parasha, you have to build a sanctuary. I have to build a sanctuary in my heart. Ulener tamid, and for a ner tamid, I'm going to take the fire of the sacrifices, meaning I'm going to take the passion of Judaism. I'm going to take the passion, the desire, the realization that this is critical to my life. And if it's critical in my life, then nobody can take it away from me. And I can't take it away from me either. And that's what Purim is about. You pour a little bit of wine into that, and then the passion, it just burns. The flame goes up. That you put a little joy into it. You pour a little love into it. Give presents to other people. Give presents to the poor. You put that into the mix, and then all of a sudden the passion is reignited. And that's what Purim is about. Purim is about reigniting the passion, finding the fire. And that's the preparation. Preparation is spending the next 2 weeks, it's less than 2 weeks already, the next week and a half, not just figuring out what we're stuffing the Hamantashen with, not just figuring out who's coming to the Purim Suda, but to spend the time now, between now and Purim, in finding our fire. What am I passionate about? What do I believe in? What do I stand for? Who am I? If you took this away from me, what would I be missing in my life? Why is this so important to me? Figure that out. On Purim, let it pour out of you. And when it pours out of you, the fires will burn. And those fires will burn from year to year. It will be inside of you, an Eish Tamid Tukadbo, a fire that is burning always. It'll be a Ner Tamid, an eternal light. And that's what we try to achieve on Purim, that we turn the lights back on. Have a beautiful, amazing Shabbos, and let this ignite you. Come on, baby, light my fire.